What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Creative James Media YouTube channel. I'm your host, Matt, the social media manager here at CJM. Today, we have another interview for you. We're going to be talking with one of our latest signings, author Jennifer Sadera. We're going to be talking a bit about some of her past reads, past books and publications, as well as the book that we signed titled Maybe You Lied, which releases this September. So without further ado, let's jump in and get right into it. Jennifer, how are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to start chatting about the books.
Of course, that's what we love to do. We love to hear about people's processes and kind of what makes them tick in their writing hemisphere. Um, for those who maybe don't follow you or are new to reading your content, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Sadera, usually go by Jen. And I love to write psychological suspense novels. Once I started reading books like Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, Women in the Window, I just became obsessed. And, I wrote all kinds of things before that. My background is in magazine. I started at book publisher NAL Penguin, and then I worked at Women's World and Red Book. But as soon as I stopped freelancing, I just decided I'm going to just write books. And those books were very inspirational.
Yeah, that seems to be. I've noticed a lot of people usually have a certain evolution. We have authors who previously worked in TV and wrote the TV scripts and the TV schedules, and then we have people who former librarians or still are librarians. So that seems to be kind of the evolution.
Yeah,
You kind of find the bug, so to speak, and you just never look back.
exactly.
Um, when would you say that your love for writing really began? Was there a certain book that you read, a certain magazine that you picked up that was like, this is something I want to do?
Well, books have always been such an integral part of my life that the moment was so very early. The very first moment was when my parents brought me to the library. I was 6 years old, and they got me a library card, and I was able to take out all these books. I just couldn't even believe it that I could just have these books for free. I had to return them, but I was able to read them. And my very favorite book was Go Dog Go. That was my first book that I ever took out of the library. And then my dad, when I was 8, I started writing myself, and still have the book that I wrote. It was called Shekel. It was in a little spiral notebook, and it was about a little girl who found a golden coin. I don't think that's going to make it onto any bestseller list anytime soon, but my dad was my main support. He was wonderful, and he was always very supportive of my writing. And he crazy before I signed my first book contract, he had died exactly 4 months before that. So it's very bittersweet for me that he never got to see me have some writing success. But I know he's up there somewhere, and he's cheering me on.
Yeah, I. You should never say never with that little book. You never know. You might one day have nothing else to write, and you're like, you know what? Let me see what
I'll
I
go
can do
back
with it.
quite a few decades and dig that out.
You never know. I've haven't gone decades, but I've gone a couple years and pulled something out, and I'm like,
Huh?
I think we can do something with this. I found a paragraph.
I love it.
Can you tell everybody a bit about your novel? I knew she was there, and kind of what inspired you to start this journey off.
Yeah, this book, like I said, I'd written when my kids went off to high school. I was still freelancing at that time, and then I just said, they're gone, they're off to college. It's all about me now. I'm going to write books, and I wrote, and it took me 12 years and 6 books to finally get a book that hit. And this book was it's not autobiographical at all, but the premise was I had a colicky baby, and I used to have to walk her everywhere to get her to stop crying. And somehow that little kernel of an idea just had me thinking, because now I'm deep into the psychological suspense, and I'm thinking, oh wow, what if a woman was strolling her baby through these streets and it was at night, And what if, it was a really upscale neighborhood, and maybe she had some issues. Maybe she was trying to find answers in life. Her husband just left her. Like, maybe, what if? And then it turned into this novel, which is really a witness to a crime novel. When she's in this neighborhood, she has to be careful what she sees when she shouldn't be looking, especially when she's walking at night and she's peeking in the windows of people who don't have their blinds closed. So it kind of it started as that, and that was really what it was supposed to be about. But when you're writing, and I'm sure you're a writer too, so I mean, all these things come out. You have this idea of how it's going to be, and then all these other things come out. And this simple witness to crime novel ended up being a social commentary on class, and it surprised me as much as everyone else.
Yeah, I think that's one thing too. I always tell people when they ask me for advice, I say, no matter how silly, no matter how small or trivial, make sure you always write it out. Because you can go back and refine it and chop and edit later, but you never know how much of an idea that seems stupid now is could end up being an integral part of your story. So
Oh
just
yeah, I mean, all these rabbit holes I've gone
Mhm.
down. Some of them have paid off. Some of the rabbit holes have gold at the bottom of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. How did this happen? It's your subconscious mind at work telling you
Exactly.
exactly how it's going to work.
Yeah, and you also too, make sure nowadays it's easier because of cell phones, but always if you're out and about and you think of something and you're like, "Oh man, that's a good direction," or "Oh man, I got this idea for a book," put it in your notes app.
Absolutely. I have my notes app next to my bed because sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, something that came to me in a dream, and I always, just type right in there and then go right back to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's you never know when things are going to strike and
Yeah.
what's going to pop in your head or what's going to inspire something. And I've been walking down the street and I'm like, "Oh, something wrong with that car, but if it was to go over there and break down," I'm like, "There we
There
go."
you go.
It's
I
you
get a
just
lot of inspiration for some bizarre reason in the shower. I don't know why, but there's not much to look at that's inspiring, but it just seems to be a happy place for me when ideas come to me. So that's a big one for me.
you can't knock it if it produces the gold,
If it works, yeah. If it
If
works.
it. The other thing too is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
Continue to use
yeah.
the ideas.
And the funny thing about I Know She Was There was that it did get the gold. It got the gold medal IPPY award this past year,
That's
and
awesome.
that was incredibly exciting. I was so thrilled just to get the book published, and then to win an award for it, and a big award was, just so exciting and beyond thrilling. And then it was also got a judge's top pick at Killer Nashville, which was I also didn't expect that, and it was wonderful. But if you love what you're doing, it comes through, and good things happen.
Exactly. People can see that passion in your writing. So if you're writing something or you're doing an art or hosting something and you're not really fully in it, people can see that. They will gravitate towards the energy that you put out with that project. So that's why it's always important.
Yeah,
If you're not passionate about it, maybe put it to the side and work on something else that you are for now, and then come back to it
great
and
advice.
just try and find whatever it is that's going to spark that idea to make it be full of that joy and full of that emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, would you say that you're more of a plotter or a pantser?
I'm really neither. I call
Okay.
myself a planter, which means that I plot everything out in my mind, and then I'm a visual person. So I draw a big circle, and to date, I've been writing all of my books in first person because I love the immediacy of learning things. As the reader's learning things, the protagonist is also learning things. So it makes it very easy for me to plot because I make the big circle. I just put the protagonist in the center, and then I just have the rays. So it's like a sun. I have the rays coming off of it, which detail all the things I plan to do with the chapters. And it changes immensely as I start writing. As soon as I start writing, I realize what's not working, what is working. It works for me. It doesn't work for everyone. I have a lot of writing friends who do it much differently than I do. but it's very effective for me.
Yeah, it's whatever works best for you. There's no set path or diagram when it comes to that kind of thing. It's if you could write a book and not plan anything and it's a great book, then more power to you. Or maybe you're a mixture, or maybe you're none. You just do whatever you want and it works out. I
Yeah.
can't do that, but I, you'll spend too much time going back through your manuscript. Like, wait, what did I say 120 pages ago? Got to make sure I get this right.
But I know some writers who do it. Mary Kubica does it. She says it takes her twice as long to write a book because she doesn't do any plotting. She just sits down and starts writing. But it works for her. It's a
Yeah,
great process for her. So
yeah. If it
she's
works, it
highly,
works.
successful. Yes. Yeah.
Um, Here's a super hard question for you. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, always coffee, and a special treat is lattes or cappuccino. That is my chocolate. If I
Yes.
can't have chocolate, then give me a cappuccino. I love it. Tea's fine. I have it now and again when I'm in the mood, but coffee is an everyday thing. Yes.
I'm right there with you. It's either coffee, straight black, or I get cold brew. So
Oh, okay. I
every
hear the
single
cold
day,
brew is very good.
it is. I'm simple with mine though, because people are always like, "Don't go too girly." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I have the most basic drink. It's just cold brew with 4 caramel, oat milk, and less ice. That's all it is.
There you go.
Simple. Not too sure. I can't do super sugary. That just
No, I don't add sugar to my coffee. I used
yeah,
to when I first started drinking it, but
yeah.
I was getting too much sugar in my chocolate that I was eating. So I had to cut back somewhere.
Yeah, I think we've all gone through that phase of way too much sugar in our coffee. I started drinking coffee at 12 when I was
Oh,
working on the
wow.
farm with my family. So I at first I couldn't stand the taste, and so it was, milk and tons and tons of sugar. And now I'm like, I want coffee that has flavor profiles that I don't need to add anything to. I'm getting the caffeine, but I'm also getting the experience at the same time.
Well, living on the farm, I'm sure when you first started drinking, you were putting all that fresh milk in there, right? Which has probably made it so rich and delicious.
It does help, because that's one reason why I like oat milk, is because it has a little bit more creamy and it has a natural sweetness to it. So
Mm.
you don't have to really add anything because it's already giving it that extra note.
Yeah, cashew
Um,
milk too is like that, really,
yeah.
even a little creamier.
So we picked up your book, Maybe You Lied,
Hmm.
which releases this September, as we said before. Could you share a little bit about it? Kind of give the readers a sneak peek at what they can expect and look forward to.
Yeah, I'm it's right at the top of my mind because I just came back from this book event, and I have to say that I can't wait to share the first of all, I can't wait to share the cover because people loved the cover. So that's really exciting. But they also love the premise, which is actually a very simple premise, just like my first book. It's a young man raised by a widowed mom. They get into a car accident in which he is driving the car in his late teens, and his mother dies. So there's a whole lot of emotion going on with all
Yeah.
that. He finally gets out of the hospital and he's going through all his mother's papers. And at this point, he's in his early 20s. He discovers a deed to a very mysterious house in a different state. When he goes to investigate it, it's everything starts unraveling about his life, and he discovers that his mother lied to him about everything in his life. And think about that. Think about how that would feel if you have a narrative in your head about what your life is going to be like, right? And what it is and what it has been. And then when all of a sudden you discover that none of it was true, it's like, how do you deal with that? Or how do you even have the wherewithal to know where to go next? And so those are all the things that he's struggling with. And it's really exciting the way it unravels, and he discovers some interesting things, because why do people lie? They lie to either stay out of trouble or to protect someone. So one of those things is going on, or maybe both. So it was a lot of fun to write.
Sounds like a true definition of a psychological thriller.
Yes, it absolutely is. You know what? All I do is research. I am a huge researcher, and I love to research into the human mind because there's so many places to go. You should see the different things that I've discovered about, things that like different things that happen to people, and places that their minds go, and it's crazy, but it's also so interesting. And I can't imagine writing anything else because I love it so much, and I love learning about mining all this good stuff from the human mind.
Right. And there's definitely no shortage of research and papers and studies on the human mind.
Yeah.
So, and there's more coming out every single day because we're always learning something new, or some doctors trying to probe some different area that we have yet to really dive into. So there's definitely no shortage of things for you to look at.
I was doing some research yesterday, and I came upon the Mandela effect.
Mhm.
I'd never even heard of that before. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Everybody look it up. Look up what that is, what that means, because it's very interesting.
Yeah.
The way it's all about the way people remember things.
Hmm.
And sometimes they remember things in such a way that they actually think that they lived those things. It's very interesting.
Yeah, we learned that one in college because I
Mm,
studied criminal justice and forensic psychology. And so we definitely we dove into that very deeply when it came to the aspect of what witnesses can actually recall, and how
yeah.
just being in the vicinity of something happening, it can feel like it's happened to them, as if they
Yeah,
were firsthand witnessing the car accident or
exactly.
whatever it
It's
was.
crazy, isn't it?
It's
It's crazy.
fascinating.
I get so excited by this stuff. I was a writing major, so a broadcasting and major and a writing minor. So I didn't get to do any of the psychology things. So I'm learning it now. The stuff you learned in school, I'm learning on my own,
Yeah,
and it's so much fun.
it's another rabbit hole, honestly. Like
Yeah.
you could spend
Yes.
months and years just going through, because they started doing research on the mind really, really early, the study of psychology. And in the early 1900s, when they were first discovering that there's a possibility that we can figure out the human psyche and break it down into how things work, going back to like the early days of early sociology and psychology and psychiatry. So there's no shortage.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun to research all this stuff.
Outside of writing, what would you say some of your hobbies are?
Well, I love to travel. And, that's why this is the perfect job for me because I've traveled all around the country and even to other countries and promoted my writing and just had so much fun doing that. So writing is a huge thing. I also love to garden, but gardening is a little frustrating for me. Just before COVID, we moved to the end of a road at the top of a mountain in a nature preserve, and my closest neighbors are deer. And unfortunately, they're not always the easiest neighbors to have when you like to grow plants. So I don't grow as much because first of all, I'm spending a lot more time writing, but also I don't want to upset the neighbors. So we get along really well when I just keep all my plants up high on my deck.
Right.
But I do love to garden, and of course, always spending time with my family. I have a brand new baby, well, baby, she's almost 2 now, granddaughter, and she just went on the snowboard for the first time
Okay.
last week, and she loved it. So
That's
that's so
exciting.
so much, and the dogs, love the dogs. You got to have dogs to love too, right?
Exactly. Some sort of pet. Yeah, because
Yes.
we had that problem with our deer because my grandma loved to garden.
Yeah.
So we had to we set up a trail camera to see what exactly they were eating the most. And so then we just plotted a little corner for them of that same exact thing.
Ah,
And then eventually
smart.
they stopped coming to the house because it was closer to the woods. They didn't have to come out of it. They didn't have to travel in front of the house where they would see people. It was just right there.
Very smart. That
It's
works.
it's something to
Distract
think
them.
about.
Distract them and feed them. And if I ever get enough time to do that, I'll hike up to the woods on the side of my property and try to plant some stuff in there.
Yeah, or just take and do. do some corn or something. Get a bag of the corn feed and just set a feeder on a timer. You can get them really cheap at the farm and garden store. Once a month, go up there and put another bag in there, and they'll be happy and they'll leave you alone.
They'll leave us alone. I have to admit though, I really do love seeing them because the whole
Yeah,
family comes. Last spring, I had a baby sleeping in my backyard next to my shed. I got some great video,
yeah,
and it's just fun. We moved to this house. I called it my writer's retreat. It's just so quiet, and it's great for that. But
yeah.
it's also been great. I've seen just so much wildlife, and I'm a huge nature girl. I lived in the city when I first got out of college, when I worked at the publisher and the magazines, but like I knew that wouldn't last. I need to be with nature.
Right. It drives me crazy going from my childhood and going to college and then going back to the country and now living in the city again.
Yeah.
It is a smaller city and there's easily accessible lakes and nature within 10-minute drive. But it's just something about walking out onto the deck and just sitting there in the morning and seeing nothing. That is just
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
starts your day a little bit different. It's just a little bit more peace while you wake your brain up and kind of mentally get ready for whatever's coming next during the day.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
true.
One thing that I thought we could chat about, because you and I have kind of talked about this previously, was an author's intent versus their finished product.
Yeah. I
Because
mean, yeah, we definitely touched on it because it's just when you set about writing something, you have in your mind, what you want to write. And I always say, my books are so simple. I always start with a very, very, very simple premise, but they just kind of take on a life of their own. And I think it's really a good advice for people writing. Go with what you know, obviously, but try to start it simply because it's probably not going to stay simple. And when
right,
I was starting to get book reviews, everybody said, "Oh, it's so twisty and mind bending, and it's very complex." And that kind of shocked me in the beginning because I thought the books are very simple, but they're really not because I delve into the human mind, and the human mind isn't simple. So as I said, I know she was there. Started as just a witness to a crime, and it ended up as being a whole commentary on class resentment. That
right,
was not my intent when I first started, but the way it rolled out is how it happened. And with Maybe You Lied, very similar things happen. We're talking about a young man who believe and by the way, I love that this next book is a young man protagonist because as much as I love the female perspective, being one myself, and I love that it's now represented so well. I kind of saw a little bit of a hole. There weren't enough young, especially young men.
right.
Young men are just as vulnerable as young women, older teens, young 20s. I know I have a daughter and a son, and they're both sensitive people. And my son is probably even more sensitive, even though you would look at him and think, wow, manly guy. And he
Right.
is, got his tattoos and all that. But inside he's a gentle soul. And I wanted to bring that out in my book. And I want, he's really just so confused because he's seeing life one way, and then he gets into this very vulnerable time of his life in his early 20s and finds out his world has just exploded and it's nothing about what he thought. And there's repercussions for that, right? He thinks, well, maybe if I'd known these true things, maybe I would have had more motivation in my life, maybe I would have had more self-esteem, or maybe he would have been in danger.
Right.
So I love delving into those layers. So it's not just like this is what happened, and it's full of action, and it's really exciting, but like there's so much more under the surface. When I write, um, I don't write like a suspense writer. I tend to be a little more flowery in my speech. So what I have to do is I have to go through and cut out about a third of my writing to get rid of all the descriptions and flowery things so I can get right back to the action.
Right.
And that's the only way I can do it. But I think I'm able to keep just a few nuggets that really make people feel in here. And that's what I need for, when I'm sending out my books. I need for them to really feel and relate to the characters. And I love it when people say the character stayed with me for weeks after that. Then I know I've done my job.
Right. And I think too, a big strong part of it is the element of individual interpretation, because everybody is going to feel some different emotion or have a certain thought on how a situation should have been, or oh, if they would have just did this, or maybe if they would have not done so much of that, then the outcome might have been different. So I think that plays a really big role when we're writing, is that you know how you want it to come across, you know how you feel when you write it. But what my favorite thing is when getting the reviews, people are like, oh man, I read your book and I felt like I was living in that town. I
Yes.
felt like I was the one driving that truck and seeing the sunrise and smelling the things that you're describing. And that's what you want to hear, because you're trying
Yeah.
to let people in on a world that you imagined and that you're trying to bring to life.
Yes. Totally true. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Um, One thing that I want to ask you too, and just be as honest. We love when people are honest about it. But what are a few things that you like about working with us here at CJM so far?
Oh my goodness, I love it. I really love it. I started my career. I first got offered my contract with CamCat, and they were wonderful. Great, great editing process, all that. But then the publisher died.
Mhm.
And that was only a few months into it. I just finished the editing. I had my arc in hand, and the publisher died. And then sadly, a few months later, the editor that I worked with died, and that
Oh,
that one
jeez.
really hurt because we were very close. We'd become so close through the book. But the people, just to make a long story short, the people who bought it ended up not really putting the devotion into the book. In fact, they ended up declaring bankruptcy. So now we've just been bought again, and I couldn't do it. I said I need a publisher who's really invested. And Jean Loud, the editor in chief and publisher of the CJM, it has just been amazing. I mean, every Monday we have little powwows and we talk about the writing process, and we talk about marketing and promotion and all those really exciting things that are part of being a writer in today's world. And she has been so supportive and just really fantastic. And I'm getting that author centric connection that I really wanted with CamCat, and I had at the beginning but lost. But this is great because she's fantastic. This is a great publisher. I see wonderful things for it, and that's why I wanted to become a part of it. And I'm her first thriller. She told me I'm the very first thriller, and that's really exciting for me. And that was quite enticing. When I heard that, I said, "Oh, I have to be a part of this." And I have to say, I'm so excited that I'm connected with Creative James Media. I love her story. I love the namesake,
Mhm.
and I just love her devotion to this because she's a busy lady, and to put so much, all of you putting so much, you all have such busy lives, and to devote the time to us, I'm honored. I really am.
Yeah, we try to do that with every aspect, because we want you to be happy with everything from your cover to your blurb to your tagline. We want you as involved in the process as possible, because in the end, it's your book. You have to be happy with it when we're done. So we try to make you as involved in the process as possible, to kind of make you feel at home and be like, okay, this is where my book belongs. Um, because the more you feel that, the more you want to get out there, the more you want to push your book, the more you want to learn new things to promote your book. And that's our thing too. It's like, we signed this book for you. It does really well. You sign with us again, or maybe you get an offer from a big five and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go with big five. That's okay, because we want you to take that next step and to be able to grow as an author and a writer. So it's definitely, I love to hear it when people appreciate the time that we take, because it does get to be a time consuming process in certain aspects. So it's definitely.
No writer gets anywhere alone. And it's always the people who help you out and get you to that place. And whether, whether you become a Big Five writer, whatever, wherever you are, when you meet your goals, you're not doing it alone. There's always so many people who help you. And I'm always so grateful for everyone. I mean, everyone has been amazing. And I couldn't have done it alone.
Yeah, and it's definitely a journey. And anybody who's a writer, it's definitely it's a one foot in front of the other kind of thing because you never know what you're going to encounter around the
Yeah.
corner or what kind of new technology is going to pop up that you're going to have to try to overcome and learn, or a new publishing technique or whatever it is. So it definitely helps to have that team behind you to be like rely on and ask questions and kind of share the burden so you can focus more on just getting the book perfect and getting it out there and having a great launch and being successful first view of the work. Before we end off, do you have any events or signings or anything like that that you have coming up that you would like to promote and let the people know about?
Well, yeah, I just finished with the creepy retreat in Arizona, the creepy book club. That was fantastic. If anybody wants to learn more about that, you can go on my website, jennifersadera.com. I have an event in Boston coming up April 15th that I'm going to be attending. It's for a great cause. Marcy McCreary, a fellow author, check that out. She is doing a fundraiser for Alzheimer's. And then Thriller Fest, New York City. That's in May in, excuse me, Killer Nashville. Excuse me. Sorry, Killer Nashville in August, and BoucherCon in Calgary, Ontario in October.
Sounds like you have a lot going on leading up to the release of Maybe You Lied. Um,
Yes.
as always, guys, we will leave the links to her website and socials in the description. Please go check her out and see what she's up to, and keep an eye out on our socials as we will be releasing some more little tidbits leading up to release. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, and thank you so much for having me.